Hi everyone, I'm delighted to be guest designing today for Cocoa Vanilla Studio, and I'm using their Happy Days collection. So I am, as like everyone I suppose, I am in love with this striped paper. I think it's called Sunshine Lollipops, and it has all those fabulous stripes on it. I am in love with those rainbow stripes. I just tried to figure out what I could do with them that would really use them maybe in a bit of a different way. I was really tempted to cut them all apart and stick them all back together again, but I have refrained from doing my usual. So instead, I think I'm going to make some rosettes out of them. So you can see that I've cut 4 wide stripes with the pinky colours, and I've got four stripe wide piece using the blue colours, and then the others are just 2 stripes wide. I am using my scoring tool, that's right, that's the word, scoring tool to score 1/4 inch along the edges. So the whole strip is concertinaed every 1/4 inch, and then I'm just folding them backwards and forwards, concertina fold, and I've done that with all of them. So I've done them with the wide stripes, I've done it with the 2 stripe wide stripes as well. Now the paper is 12 inches wide, so I can't make the strips any longer, and in order to make a big rosette like the one at the top right you can see there, I really need longer strips of paper, but I didn't have them, so I'm just making half rosettes instead with the big ones. I'm right now just putting the little rosettes together. So I had a number of the 2 stripe wide strips, and then I had 1 remaining pink stripe. So I've made the little one out of that. So there we go. You can see I've got all my rosettes are made, and I use my hot glue gun to stick them together. The half ones were a little bit more challenging, obviously, because they're not in a the strips are not end to end. They're only half, so I had to just carefully get them stuck onto a circle and make sure that they didn't pop apart. But anyway, there we go. It's looking good. I've got my 2 big rosettes in place either side, and of course they look perfect on the edge because they're only halves. And then the smaller ones I have got in the middle, and they're kind of linking the 2 together. And then I've got the really tiny one at the top as well, kind of aiming for a bit of rainbow look, you know, going from dark to light colours, but not overly worried about that too much, because my darkest colour, the dark blue, isn't one of the big ones on the edge, so it's slightly out of order, but it's okay, I can handle it. So I'm doing something a little bit out of my comfort zone, and I am cutting out my subjects of my photos. Now, I rarely do this, but whenever I do it, I always like the look, but of course they end up being really tiny. I probably should have started off with bigger photos, but my plan was not to do this. My plan was to use normal, regular, rectangular photos, but I didn't like how they looked against my rosette. They covered up too much, and I wasn't very happy with them. So by cutting them out, that gave me little photos, and it meant that I can show off more of those beautiful rosettes in the background. But it just means that my photos are actually now really quite small. And I was worried about how well they showed up. Normally I would like my photos to have a white border, but it all works out okay in the end. They look okay. They don't show up as well as if they had a white outline, but they're okay. So what I'm doing now is I decided that my layout needed a bit of mixed media. Now, I'm not a big mixed media person these days. So this is again a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I felt that it needed it. The rosettes needed to have like a glow behind them. So I've just grabbed out some of my ink pads and matched up the colours as best as I can. And I'm going to add a small amount of ink behind each one of the rosettes. So I'm just using an ink applicator tool and the Distress Oxide ink pads and to apply a little bit of colour. Now, I did draw around my rosettes with very lightly in pencil, so I knew where they would be. I also labelled them, so this one, you know, it's got a circle around it, and I've written yellow in the middle so that I know which colour it is, because you know, once you've made your layout or positioned everything on your layout and then you've moved it all off again, then you often can't remember where it all goes. So I got away with that by say drawing around each one and labeling them. So there we go. You can see that I'm just going through doing this little bit of inking. I'm not sure why my screen is flashing. Sorry about that. Yeah, not sure what's going on with the screen, why it's flashing like that. So let's hope that that's now stopped. I've cut a little bit out of the video to hopefully, whatever that bad bit was, hopefully that's now okay. So we'll see how we go. Right, so I've skipped forward a little bit. You can see that I've done all of my inking and now I'm just sticking everything back in place. I'm using my hot glue gun to stick all the rosettes down. And you can just end up seeing a small amount of the colour behind the rosettes. So it's not overwhelming amounts of mixed media. It's just a small amount. I am going to come in and add some splatters of the same colours, but I just think for the moment that looks really good with the little glow of colour behind the rosettes. You don't see it so well on the video, but in person it does look really, really lovely. It just extends them a little bit. And as I say, when I add the splatters as well, that also helps. So I had to tidy up my edges a little bit of the half rosettes. They weren't playing ball and sticking nicely on the edge of the cardstock perfectly. So just had to sort that out and position them in place and get them stuck down properly with my glue gun. Yeah, okay, so here we go. Now I'm just going to add my splatters, so literally same colours of ink pads, and I'm just adding a few splatters around each one to extend that colour even further. And I say it really does kind of bring it to life a bit, really, I think. I always think that mixed media comes into its own once you've stuck something on top of it. I always think when I've done my mixed media on my background, I think, oh God, what a mess, that looks dreadful. But then I put all my design on top of it and actually it looks lovely. So I think I'm just a bit scared of it for that reason. I used to do loads of mixed media, but you know, it's like anything, isn't it? Like fashion, you go in and out of phases. At the moment, I'm more of a dry phase rather than a mixed media messy phase. I'm sure I'll get back into it at some point, but at the moment, I'm enjoying using these ink pads just applying small amounts of colour and a few splatters here and there when the mood strikes. So there we go. I'm really happy with how that looks, actually. I'm glad that I went for the colour and the mixed media colour and added that behind those rosettes rather than just left it completely pure white. Okay, so fast forwarded a bit to my splatters all being dry. I can now add my photos in place, and I've also fussy cut out a number of those fabulous words from the definition paper. I don't think it is called definition. I think it's called something similar to that. Definitive? Something like that. So I've cut a few of those out. I couldn't help myself. Once I started, I couldn't stop. I've got one for each of the rosettes. Just picked out words that describe my kiddies. These are my two big ones, who are, frenemies. It's nice to have photos of them together, but the first photo is them actually looking quite nice. But the second photo at the top there, I think I'd said, or my husband had said to them, Sophie, why don't you put your arm around Max, right? And of course, then that creates lots of faces and no, get off me, all of that kind of thing. You know what kids are like, right? Siblings anyway. So I thought that was quite funny, and it tells a little story about their relationship. So sometimes they are thick as thieves and other times they absolutely hate each other. And I do journal about that as well. There it is on the right hand side. So I just wrote the journaling with a black journaling pen. I was worried about losing the shape of the layout, so I kept it all on the right hand side, and actually I'm quite happy with how it turned out. I like the black, the pop of black, and I'm going to come in with some black splatters as well, because I always feel that black adds a bit of drama to the colourful layout like this. I think it's really cool, very effective. So yeah, the black pen worked, and then that gave me the idea to add some black splatters as well. So just going ahead and doing that. I was going to shake directly onto the layout because I always like big blobs of black paint, but of course they don't always go where you want them to, and then that can be problematic. So I wasn't brave enough to do that this time, so I have just used the paintbrush because I have much more control that way. So there we go. I love that addition of the black paint, and that is me all finished. So I really hope that you liked seeing how this layout came together. I absolutely loved creating it. I really enjoyed using that paper and making those rosettes out of that paper and creating this rainbow layout. So thank you very much, Cocoa Vanilla Studio, for having me as your guest designer today, and I'll be back with a few more layouts at some point as well. Thank you so much for joining me. That was Nikki Rowland, guest designing for Cocoa Vanilla Studio.